Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the first of two Open to Export webinars today. To begin with, we are answering your questions about the government's three-phase plan for introducing border checks to imports from the EU to the UK. My name is William Barnes-Graham, and I'm a Senior Content Editor at the Institute of Export and International Trade. Just a quick note to say that we are all dialing in from home, so if there are any glitches in the connections, please bear with us, but we will hopefully have a smooth webinar today. Open to Export is a free online service helping small businesses get ready to sell overseas through our step-by-step articles and guides, regular webinars, our Export Action Plan tool, and our quarterly competitions. You can find out more information about all of these on our website at www.opentoexport.com. Open to Export is powered by the Institute of Export and International Trade, the membership body for traders. Endorsed by the World Trade Organization and the International Chamber of Commerce as a small business champion, we offer a unique range of individual and business membership benefits, education and training catering for beginners through to master's degrees, an always exciting and prestigious program of events celebrating UK businesses exporting achievements. The Institute continues to operate online, offering a range of digital support and telephone assistance throughout the pandemic. This includes digital training courses and export masterclasses, international trade surgeries, which can be conducted over the phone, online qualifications provided by both the Institute and the UK Customs Academy, daily bulletins bringing you all the key trade stories, and of course, the free articles and webinars on the Open to Export platform. Now, with the government indicating that it is looking to press on with the end of transition period, that's now been confirmed, in fact, we do recommend you continue your Brexit preparations throughout this period. And of course, many of the Institute's relevant courses are fundable by government grants. You can find out more information about all of our support on our website at export.org.uk, and please feel free to contact us if you have any queries. The point of today's webinar is that we really want to answer your questions, so please do ask away using the control panel to the right-hand side of your screen. The general principle we will adopt is that we will only ask questions that are relevant to the broader audience, so we won't go into company specifics as such, but there is the Institute's technical helpline for any specific questions you may have. Also a note to say that we do generally tend to avoid speculative or overly political questions as well. We're much more here for practical advice and support. Now, before handing over to today's speakers, we're going to be running a few polls today, beginning with this one on Brexit preparations. I'm just going to launch that now. So the question is, how well prepared do you think your business is for the end of the transition period? The options range from very prepared to quite prepared, not very prepared, not at all prepared, hopefully not many there, and not sure as well. So I'll give people a few seconds to answer that question. And while I'll do that, I'm delighted to welcome our two speakers for today. You can see them and soon you'll hear them. We have Kevin Shakespeare, the Institute's Director of Stakeholder Engagement, one of our regular webinar speakers. And we've also got Sam Pileggi, the Director of Commercial Operations with the Institute. So hi, Sam and Kevin, nice to have you with us.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Great, so most of you have answered, but I'll just give another 5 seconds for people to answer this question. There'll be one more poll later on in this session. Okay, so I'm just going to share the results to that poll. And it's really quite encouraging, really. So we have 68% have said they are quite prepared. 12% are very prepared, which is very good on you. 13% not very prepared, but there's still time, and isn't that great? 0% are not at all prepared. So congratulations, everyone. That's really good to see. But yes, now on to the main part of today's webinar. So last Friday, the government announced customs and border controls that will operate at the end of a transition period. Along with other announcements such as the UK's global import tariff, these are significant announcements for UK businesses to consider. Today, we will look at the customs and borders controls and what these will mean for your business. So Kevin, before looking at before we go into that, what has been announced and what actually are the customs and borders controls in question?
So thank you, Will. Good morning, everyone. It's obviously a pleasure to be speaking today, and I hope everyone is well and safe at this time. First of all, let's consider, the question, customs and border control. So they're basically a means by which a country can control the goods that actually enter into the country, that enter its frontiers and borders. So there's that control over the goods and also how taxes are collected. And we would refer to taxes in the case of possible import duties that could apply and import VAT as appropriate as well. And a country will want to ensure that any goods entering the country do not contain anything that contaminate, that's harmful to people, animals, and the environment. And clearly, a country will want to ensure that it's collecting its taxes in as prompt a manner and appropriate manner as possible, and all trade taking place is legal and above board.
Great, thank you, Kevin. And I mean, Sam, the staging is being talked about a lot. Businesses will want to know what these announcements mean for them. Can you tell me a bit more about stage one?
Yes, so stage one, which is from the 1st of January, means that importers of standard goods, which are goods such as clothes, electronic, and many goods used as components for manufacturing, can prepare for more basic customs declarations instead of full customs declarations. So a full customs declaration would require that the business submit a detailed import declaration to customs. To give you an idea of the type of information required, there should be appearing on screen a copy of a C88. This is one of obviously the key documents. Basic customs declarations require that the business keeps all records of the imported goods. This should include the commercial invoice, transport documentation such as the bill of lading, CRM, road transport document, and packing list. In fact, we would actually suggest that you have all records of the import in a complete file for record keeping purposes. You'll need them for when you have to make the full declaration, and you do have up to 6 months to make the full declaration.
Thank you, Sam. A question has just come in from David, who's asked, in terms of talking about importers of standard goods being able to make basic customs declarations, what does this mean for businesses that want to make what is referred to as the basic customs declarations? Presumably, if you want to make full declarations, you can, Kevin?
Yeah, no, thank you very much for the question. So if a business can make a full customs declaration, and for those businesses who are already importing from the rest of the world outside the European Union, you'll be familiar with making full declarations. So you may want to continue to do so. I think key to the process will be is that also as well as the potential to making a basic customs declaration, there can also be deferral of payment of import duty. So the UK has announced its global import tariff that will apply. Clearly, that is outside of any trade deals. So if any trade deals agreed, whether it's the European Union, existing trade deals with, for example, the likes of South Korea, Mexico, for example, then there won't be any import duties applying. But if there are import duties applying, then there is that potential also here to actually defer the payment of duty for 6 months as well. So there could be that cash flow benefit. That doesn't mean that you won't have to pay the import duty if there is any. You will, and you need to account for that in your financials. But it does mean that you have that deferral element. So that will be key, I think, to this. And also, if businesses are familiar with making a full declaration, they may just continue to do so rather than having to just declare, enter the declaration into their own records. But if you are making a declaration, you must make sure you have, as Sam's just indicated, a complete import file which covers all elements of the import transaction. You should do that anyway. So what this is doing, and it's important to stress this is only for goods imported from the European Union that these staging processes are in place. It's not applicable for goods from the rest of the world. So it's probably aimed more at those businesses that are not used to making customs declarations currently. And there are a huge number of businesses that applies to, and it's starting to help you, support you in that process. It's also a recognition that during these difficult days of COVID-19, that businesses have a lot to consider at the moment. So this assistance is very, very important in terms of importers of standard goods, but you must keep your records. I would stress again, any customs declarations are made, even if it's an agent making them on your behalf, you are ultimately liable for that declaration. Hence, an understanding of customs procedures and declarations is fundamental. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. We're getting absolutely loads of questions in about customs declarations. So I'm just going to try and group them as much as possible and ask what are the main changes that businesses will have to prepare for now?
So yes, thank you again. So there's a number of changes in terms of if you're not familiar with making customs declarations. So there's a number of elements that you must consider in terms of liability for the customs declaration. So as Sam indicated, in terms of the paper C88 form, and customs declarations are clearly not made on paper anymore, you need to be aware of some very important considerations around the commodity code. So it's a tariff product code applicable to your goods. You must make sure you have the correct commodity code. You must make sure that you value the goods correctly. So the value on the commercial invoice is valued correctly for customs purposes. And the origin of the goods, for example, also becomes very important, as well as the gross and net weight of the goods. So those are just some examples. So it's not just making a customs declaration, it's what's in there, and the different component parts becomes very important. Thanks.
Thank you, Kevin. And a couple of follow-up questions. So we're talking about standard goods here, but what about non-standard goods, and what will be required for these goods?
Yeah, so I'm happy to take that question. So so non-standard goods, examples of non-standard goods would be controlled goods, excise goods such as alcohol and tobacco. There will be checks from the 1st of January immediately. So stage 1, the 1st of January. There will also be physical checks. So in this case, at the point of destination, which could be the importer's premises or other approved premises, on all high-risk live animals and plants. And there will be some further definitions that are going to be introduced. So if I use the example of plants, there are current plant products under EU regulation which are deemed to be high risk. But that is covering the needs of all EU member states. The UK will come up with its own list of plants. So that could clearly include some on the existing EU list. It could take off some plants if they are of less impact to the United Kingdom as opposed to other EU member states, as opposed to the EU member states. But lists are to come out there. So high risk live animals and plants. And then at stage 2, which is from the 1st of April, for products of animal origin, so for example, meat, pet food, honey, milk, egg products, they will also require pre-notification and the relevant health documentation. That will also apply for any regulated plants and plant products as well. So you have this stage 1 and stage 2, and stage 2 from the 1st of April brings in the products of animal origin. And then in stage 3, all goods require full declarations, and any basic declarations where you've entered the information into your own declarant records, you then have to make the full declaration as well after the 1st July. So you have that catch-up process as well as having to make full declarations. So sorry, that's quite a detailed answer. Thanks. And it probably links in quite nicely to a sheet. Now, this is a table that we're producing at the Institute, and we'll be expanding this further and making it available to you, which is looking at the staging process. So it's really just clarifying what we've talked about so far in terms of importers of standard goods having up to 6 months to complete customs declarations, about the record keeping element, around the relevant tariffs must still be paid on all imports, but payment can be deferred. So there is that cash flow potential impact if import tariffs apply. There will also be physical checks, as we've indicated, on high risk live animals. So, for example, cows, pigs and sheep, and plants, as I've said. And documentary checks will be carried out remotely as well. So it's important you have that documentation as well. It's not just about the physical check. The high risk animal byproducts. Just want to talk about safety and security declarations, because they're also very important. Once the UK leaves the EU, it will be a third country, or leaves after the end of the transition period, because we're still in that transition period. Safety and security declarations are required, both exit when it leaves the EU and entry declarations when it enters the UK, and that's a very important consideration for all businesses, hauliers, freight forwarders to consider as well. But the indication here is, again, from goods from the EU, those declarations are not required until July. We still have to account for VAT, and in previous masterclasses and other webinars, we've talked about the postponed VAT accounting scheme that will apply as well. So that's stage one. I'm not going to talk too much about stage 2 and stage 3, because we are going to update this document further. I've given you a brief overview of stage 2 and stage 3. Stage 2, 1st of April, stage 3, 1st of July. So we'll be updating this document and making it available to help all of you and the wider international trade community. Thank you.
And Kevin, there's a lot to take in, obviously. I mean, do we expect any further announcements to be coming soon?
Yeah, it's a great point. There is a lot. There's already been announcements on the UK global import tariff, on imports from lesser developed nations, on sanctions, and there's going to be lots more announcements. So currently there's a border operating plan that's being worked on, and further announcements are due to be made mid-July. Consultations are taking place, for example, with ports. They'll be looking at inland border ports, so the ports that don't necessarily have space available for carrying out SPS, sanitary, phytosanitary checks. So there's a lot more to be announced. Some of it may be mid-July, some of it may be after. So it is important, and also important to check what ports your goods are coming into.
Thank you, Kevin. We've had a few people saying that we've heard a lot about the import side, but in terms of export, will there be any export easements? Sam, do you want to have a go at that?
Well, that's a good question, and it's actually a question that the government is looking for our input on at the moment. We've sent a letter to government outlining our ideas for export easements that could apply, and we'll be keeping members and the wider international trade community aware of any developments on that front.
Thank you, Sam. And I mean, in terms of businesses listening in today, there's a fair few who are asking what this means for them specifically. So what can they do?
So as we head towards the end of the year, which is obviously the end of the transition period as well, everyone needs to consider the impact that it's going to be having on their business, the implications of the announcements that are being made, and obviously the impact to the customs declarations and procedures that are going to need to be done going forward. The good news is that the government's announced an additional £50 million worth of grant funding. That's going to be made available. It's on top of the 34 million that was already available earlier this year and last year. and it's specifically to help businesses prepare for the changes that are coming at the end of the year. We at the Institute have a number of options for businesses. We can help and support you through this time, and obviously a lot of the things that we offer are available for the grant funding as well. So you can, for a lot of these things, you can get 100% of the cost covered. So hopefully that will help to some degree. So as I mentioned, we've got the one-day training courses, which obviously at the moment are being held virtually, but they are still very much still ongoing. We have international trade surgeries. We have experts available to answer your queries on that front. We have a series of masterclass webinars that we've been running covering key topics. And obviously the Institute has its own international trade qualifications as well, if you want to actually study a qualification and go into more depth about various topics. And we have the UK Customs Academy, which is the world's first customs academy, launched with the backing of HMRC and funding of HMRC, which has online qualifications specifically for customs qualifications and courses. So there's a range of support out there, all of which are covered by, all the ones that I've mentioned are covered by the grant funding. And as Kevin mentioned earlier, the liability really sits with the company. Even if you employ a third party to complete your customs declaration, any liability and any harm to reputation will ultimately come back to the company. So it is really important that you get your teams upskilled and with the knowledge that they're going to need.
Thank you, Sam. And I think we do actually have a poll on this question, just asking people how aware they are of the government's customs grant scheme, and I'm just going to put up the options there. So yes, I have successfully applied. Yes, I've applied but not yet been granted one. Yes, but I have not yet applied. No, but I'm interested. No, and it's not of interest or relevance to me. Just while I'm asking that question, a question we've had in from Louise, and I think this would be for you, Kevin. Louise has asked, can you please cover the Northern Ireland Protocol? I understand that it should be implemented regardless of a trade deal. So I guess that's a general question about the Northern Irish Protocol, please, Kevin.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite interesting in that we have a couple of different events that have taken place and will continue to take place, online webinars, masterclasses around the Northern Ireland Protocol. So first of all, to stress that this staging process for our import controls applies to goods from the European Union to GB, Great Britain. So this does not impact in any way the guidance provided in the Northern Ireland Command Paper. So these procedures apply to importers in Great Britain, in England, Scotland, and Wales. Northern Ireland is separate. And the outline is within the withdrawal agreement and the Northern Ireland Protocol. So just a very quick summary of that is that goods moving, for example, from Northern Ireland to the Republic of Ireland and the rest of the European Union, customs declarations are not required. This is moving from a Northern Ireland business to a business in the Republic of Ireland or the rest of Europe, because for regulatory purposes, Northern Ireland is still within the European Union. So it still operates under the auspices of the Union Customs Code, which governs customs regulations. And similarly, goods coming in from the European Union to Northern Ireland or through the Republic of Ireland are similarly no tariffs would apply. That's it. That clearly tariffs would only apply if the UK and the European Union do not agree a trade deal with zero tariffs. Clearly one of the key issues we've been addressing in these webinars is what happens for goods moving from Great Britain to Northern Ireland. Will there be customs declarations? Could there be tariffs if there is a no deal zero tariff regime that's not agreed? and currently the command paper refers to at-risk goods. So an at-risk register is being worked on at the moment by a joint committee, which is going to define at-risk goods. And it is fair to say that at-risk goods will include live animals, products of animal origin, and fisheries as well. So customs declarations are likely to be required. I use the word likely, and if there is if no deal is agreed in terms of tariffs, then tariffs are likely to apply as well. Now, the application of that in terms of if there's tariffs in terms of retrospective tariffs, record keeping, at-risk goods, is still to be fully defined. But it is a very important topic, which is why we're addressing this for a number of masterclasses and webinars. And thank you for the question.
Thank you, Kevin, for the answer. I'm just going to share the results of that poll now. So a fifth of you have been able to apply, which has been, and successfully do so, which is great. 10% tried, but not yet. Obviously, there's been a couple of hiccups, but do bear with us. I know that people are working on that. But a lot of people there who are even, yes, they are aware, not applied, or not aware and interested. So again, as Sam mentioned, feel free to get in touch with us if you want any more information about those grants. Now, back to the Q&A. Had loads of questions in about TSP, or Trade Simplified Procedures. Vincent's asked, are they likely to return after the end of transition? Tony asks, will they be used anyway? We were told that it had been shelved. Kevin, do you want to just quickly update on TSPs?
Yeah, again, thanks for the question. It is a question we get quite a lot. So to make it clear, TSP was brought in place in March last year in the event of a no-deal Brexit. It was indicated in February that TSP will no longer apply, and that is absolutely correct. It will no longer apply. What has been introduced in terms of these imports, staging of the import control, effectively replaces TSP. So TSP, Transitional Simplified Procedures, no longer applies, and these import controls are effectively what is in place.
Great, thank you, Kevin. And another question we've had in from Robert, who's asked, is there any information on HMRC plans to again allow GB exports on RoRo, roll on, roll off, to be pre-arrived at collection inland as planned for the day one no deal situation in 2019?
Yeah, again, the as part of the ongoing consultation with ports, that consultation is now beginning. So the answer, and I think the acceptance is that if there is not availability at port, and there's some probably obvious ports where that's the case, clearly Kent would be one, then there will be use of inland ports. So that consultation is taking place at the moment, and further announcements will be made in that respect, obviously depending on how quickly the consultation is needed, how quickly discussions take place with each port. So the answer is there is likely to be inland ports. Definitely, it depends on space and availability at current ports. And I understand that there will be a support package for ports as well, whether that's to if you like, adapt procedures. But I would stress that's down to individual discussions between HMRC and the border force and the ports.
Thank you, Kevin. We're running a bit tight on time, but I'll do one last question. We've had a few questions in about the grants. One question in from Donna, who's asked, is there a limit per employee per course, or is there a limit on how many applications a company as a whole can make? So Sam, do you have any information just about limits on numbers of applications people can make?
Yeah, so the eligibility criteria, you're allowed to claim £2,250 per person per course, but there's no limit on the number of courses that you can put somebody through or forward for, and also you can make multiple grant applications for different training providers. So you could claim for a grant for institute training and also for the UK Customs Academy training. There's no strict eligibility on, any rules on size of company or number of employees that you have, and people who are importing and exporting, even if you use a third party to do that, can claim for the grant funding as well. So it's actually quite open to a lot of people to claim the grant funding. At the moment, it is only open to businesses, but we are petitioning government to try and change that so that individuals can apply as well.
Great, thank you, Sam, and thank you to Kevin as well. I think we're going to have to wrap up now. We did bill this as a half-hour, just initial Q&A to get a sense of what questions people are asking and to try and answer some of your initial questions as well. This will be a rolling topic for us. We will be running multiple masterclasses and public webinars throughout the year. So we will take note of all of your questions. Sorry we couldn't get to all of them today, but as said, we'll be doing many more of these sessions throughout the year. So do keep your eyes peeled on what we're doing. And yeah, please do keep on sending us questions through the usual channels, our technical helpline or our general inboxes, and we will try to get to what we can. As mentioned earlier, this is the first of a two-parter today. We are returning to our regular format this afternoon with Kevin. This will be a 1-hour session on what exporters and importers need to know from a global trade perspective as we gradually exit lockdown. Further afield, we are also running an Open to Export webinar on insurance options for exporters. That's on 2nd July. And before then, we've also got our partners, the UK Customs Academy, who are doing 2 webinars next week. On Tuesday, it's about moving goods into and out of the UK post-transition. And on Friday, we're looking at the potential implications of the Irish Protocol in a bit more detail. We will circulate links to all of those webinars, and for the Open to Export webinars, you can go to opentoexport.com/webinars, where we also share recordings of webinars, including this one today. So we will again share all those relevant links. And as mentioned earlier, the Institute has moved online for the pandemic and remains there for now. We continue to offer a range of support and telephone assistance throughout the pandemic, including digital training courses and export masterclasses, international trade surgeries, which can be conducted over the phone, online qualifications provided by both the Institute and the UK Customs Academy, daily bulletins bringing you all the key trade stories, and of course, the articles on Open to Export. As mentioned earlier, there is plenty of training for Brexit preparations. It is coming in one way or another. Well, I'll say Brexit, the end of the transition is what I mean. So please do go onto the site, look up all the information about our training, our customs grants, and as always, feel free to get in touch if you have any questions. And in terms of the practicalities of coming out of lockdown, we recently launched a new help desk and documentary library called the IOE Business Shield. This is for our business members and covers all of your HR, health and safety, legal and tax issues, and also includes some information about managing the furlough scheme and returning back safely to work. You can find more information about all of this support on export.org.uk and get in touch if you have any questions. And yeah, membership with the Institute is really important, that we support each other and share the information and best practice, which will help us to recover from this pandemic. Membership with the Institute gives you a support network and wealth of information and access to events such as this to ensure you have everything you need to meet the challenges of global trade. To find out more about membership with the Institute of Exports, the link is there, export.org.uk/membership will do it. And you can also contact our membership services team as well, who will always be happy to answer any questions you may have. But that's all from us today. We hope we got to as many of your questions as is feasibly possible in the time frame. And as said, please do continue sending questions in. And also let us know what you thought of today's webinar and any suggestions for future topics. We always really appreciate that. So thank you for now, stay safe, and goodbye, everyone.